After the Maxx Corsby insanity yesterday, are the Atlanta Falcons gearing up to make one more free agency signing? Well, I believe after a recent roster move that they decided to make in terms of cap space, you might see a roster signing coming sooner rather than later. Welcome in, Falcons fans, to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. If you're asking what this recent move was the Falcons made, they converted $14 million of offensive tackle Jake Matthews' salary into a signing bonus, adding a void year and clearing up an extra $10.5 million worth of cap space this upcoming season. So if you had to look at his upcoming cap hits, obviously in 2026 with the restructuring, it is now $16.7 million. In 2027, it's a lot higher at $26.5. It gets even higher in 2028, but that leaves that void year in 2029. Now, I know what everybody's going to say. This doesn't necessarily mean, Moose, that the Falcons are going to go out and make another signing, because you still have to clear up some cap space for your upcoming draft picks. And you're right about that. You have to clear somewhere between 6 to 8 million usually for your upcoming draft picks, depending on how many picks you have. Falcons currently have 5. We anticipate that they're probably going to add a little bit more by trading down in the draft. All of that will remain to be seen. But I will remind you that with the chaos surrounding yesterday and the whole Maxx Corsby deal with the Baltimore Ravens, this is the statement the Raiders came out with and said, the Ravens have backed out of our deal for Maxx Corsby. That's 2 first-round picks. There is a panic amongst all of the NFL right now to go out and explore Maxx Corsby and make calls on what his availability now looks like. What does the draft compensation now look like for him in a potential trade? And the Falcons can sit back on their hands, do a little bit more homework, call some GMs around and say, hey, let's talk some more free agency stuff. Now, first of all, just a sidebar here, I think the Ravens suck for this deal. I think that's just an absolutely shady, bad faith move on the Ravens' part. And there's a reason why they're getting so much shit. In fact, multiple reporters and agents are not coming out saying that they're no longer going to be doing anything with the Baltimore Ravens ever because of this deal. And Trey Hendrickson was a name that some Falcons fans really wanted to replace James Pierce Jr., but I'm not going to lie to you. For a 31-year-old edge rusher, getting paid $28 million a year is way too much, especially on a 4-year deal. By the end of that deal, he'll be 35, almost 36 years old, if he makes it to the very end of the deal. So the Falcons now have the opportunity to survey the rest of their roster and say, where can we make some additions? What does it mean for the Falcons with all of the chaos, the ensuing craziness that the NFL has kind of gathered here in the last 24 hours? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with Tua, right? Tua is going to be an interesting name now that other agents and other weapons are kind of like surveying. Who are the Falcons going to start at quarterback? Is it Michael Penix Jr.? Is it Tua Tagovailoa? I think there's a legitimate case that it could be either one of them. Reporters came out and said it's going to be an open competition between these two. And then this came on Instagram yesterday. Tyreek Hill, Cheetah, said, yes, sir. Going to the crib. Great pickup for the Falcons. Love for this for the city. Now, again, that doesn't mean everything. Doesn't mean anything, really. But I do believe that he put that out there for a reason. One, he's congratulating his former teammates. And two, Tyreek Hill needs another place to play in 2026. Now, that is a future decision. I do not think he's ready to make a decision even remotely close. So keep your eye on Tyreek Hill to the Falcons as a much later signing. I'm talking maybe even this summer. But with the Matthews restructuring, the Falcons are now back up to $20 million in available cap. I think they're going to be going after a running back too. Got Bijan, you're fine there. You need a running back too, because right now it's Nathan Carter. And I don't think anybody thinks that Nathan Carter should be the legitimate starting candidate for that RB2 spot. He was great in the preseason. I don't think he's ready for it. We lost Tyler Allgeier. We lost Kaden Elliss. We lost Dee Alford and David Onyemata. It's time to add one more addition here. I think they're going to make a push for either Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, or Rachaad White, or any of these RB2s here. Very okay with the moves made so far. I like the 8 that we've rolled with. I gave it a B to a B+. I think they're under the radar signings. I think that, those are high value picks eventually, and you're not paying anything. So in the event that none of these guys work out, you didn't pay them any money to begin with. So this does a lot of really smart things for the Atlanta Falcons, led by Ian Cunningham and Matt Ryan now, to focus on the future rather than just the here and now. Because remember, you still got to pay Bijan. Got to clear up some cap space for him next year. You got to extend Drake London. The list goes on and on and on. So I'm going to ask you this question before we continue on with the rest of the video. Will the Atlanta Falcons make any more free agent moves? Yes or no? I do think they will. I think they're going to add a running back too. And I also think that you might see something happen later on in the next coming months. So don't anticipate any major splash Tyreek Hill decision anytime before the draft, or frankly, maybe even after that draft. Look for more so like June, July, when training camp ends up starting to come about. Before we continue on with the rest of the video, which is all about Christian Harris and the recent Kaden Elliss news, I got to tell you about my friends over at Factor. You want to eat better, but you have zero time and zero energy to make it happen. Factor doesn't ask you to meal prep or follow recipes. It removes the entire problem. 2 minutes, real food, and you are done. Choose from 100 rotating weekly meals with lean proteins, colorful vegetables, whole food ingredients, healthy fats, the stuff that you'd make if you had the time. Plus, the new Muscle Pro collection supports strength and recovery. Always fresh, never frozen ingredients, ready in 2 minutes, no prep, no cleanup, no mental load. Head to factormeals.com/FalconsChat50 off and use code FalconsChat50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for 1 year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. 1 free breakfast item per box with 1 year subscription while it is active. Speaking of breaking news, former Dolphins and Cardinals linebacker Channing Tindall is signing a 1-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons. So, funny enough, we were just about to talk about Christian Harris, who we're going to spend the rest of this episode talking about, but some breaking news right there as we were in the middle of filming this episode. So, let's talk a little bit about Christian Harris. 2025 was not very kind to him. He kind of got buried on the depth chart over there in Houston. He now comes to Atlanta from Alabama. 6'1", 226 pounds, speedster, unbelievably quick. We'll touch on that here in just a minute. But he has got the opportunity now to kind of retake the form that he had in 2023. And speaking of which, during the playoff run in 2023 to 2024. So this would have been the 2023 season heading into the 2024 playoffs. The 2 playoff games that he played in. He had 12 tackles, 7 pressures, 34 yards allowed, 1 tackle, 1 sack, a 82.8 PFF grade, and an 88 coverage grade in those 2 playoff games. This guy can play at an elite level. And this is obviously coming from the Kaden Elliss news that we heard about. Like Kaden Elliss, obviously returning to the Saints is a little bit of a soul crusher there, but Kaden Elliss is one of those players that Jeff Ulbrich said would take more than one player to replace. And I believe there was legitimate interest in Kaden Elliss returning to the Falcons. I don't think Ian Cunningham and Matt Ryan were prepared to give him $11 million a year. That's what he got. 3 years, $33 million. So going back to the Saints, it does sting. And I'm going to call him the Aints here for a little bit because I'm not happy about this move. I don't want to face Kaden Elliss twice a year again, especially for that team. It'd be one thing if he signed with the Bucs. It'd be one thing if he signed with the Panthers. He signed with the Saints, man. Yuck. But Christian Harris will fill this role very nicely. I truly, truly believe that. He's going to be a very, very good player for this team. And remember how fast I was telling you that he is? On a pick 6 that he had back in 2024, right before his injury, I believe it was what it was, or maybe it was 2023. Either way, he had a pick 6, and he jumped a route beautifully and ran about 50 yards into the end zone, scored, everybody celebrated crazy. I found this stat that showed how fast he was going. He was outrunning safeties and corners. 20.95 miles an hour on that pick 6 was his top speed. This dude is a freak athlete. I talked to our Houston Texans host, Jeremy Chuggs. I said, tell me a little bit more about this guy. He goes, there's not much else to say. He's an unbelievable athlete. He just got buried in the depth chart because of his injury that he had in 2024. So they got an athletic freak, the Falcons did, who can play the position at an incredibly high level. We've seen it. He's done it in a smaller sample size, and now it's all about maintaining his health. Going back to last year, he's had plenty of issues with the ankle injuries and the calf injuries. So the lower body stuff is something that you got to be aware on him. Nagging calf, nagging ankle injuries have kind of caused him to be buried a little bit more. And he didn't take the field nearly as much as he should have under DeMeco Ryan. Now, that's okay. Like I told you, you're not going to find the crazy, huge, big-time salary marquee linebacker name for a guy that's had injury concerns. But what you're getting in the upside is incredible. Sideline to sideline speed. Can drop back in pass coverage. Ridiculous surveyor of the field. Unbelievable athlete. Lightning fast. Going alongside DeAngelo. Should fill this role. Maybe not wholly, but definitely as someone that I believe will take up that starting that interior linebacker spot. So you pair him alongside Jalen Walker and DeAngelo now. You've got a nice little three-man rotation. I think this is a very smart signing. I think it was a very smart signing. Do you? Do you think Atlanta made the right decision? Type S for smart. Type D for dumb. What is your say? What do you think? I think it was incredibly smart. This is one of the best value signings, in my opinion, for the Falcons. Now, there's no word on how much his salary is yet, or at least I haven't seen anything, so we'll wait to see what the number comes out to. But the estimated APY for him was right around $3 million a year. So if you sign him to, I think it was a one-year deal, you're looking at most $4 million, right? Like, I don't foresee that being a huge problem. So I'm typing my S for smart. That's all I got for you. We're going to be live here in a couple hours, so make sure that you pull up, hit that subscribe button, like today's video. As always, Falcons fans, rise up and be cool.